So this is our first ever sit down with AARI.
It
Um,
is.
it
This is the
is
first one.
the first one.
I'm honored. My
And we picked the
goodness.
best person for it.
Are you kidding? I better not blow it. Yikes. Well, truly, I'm honored. Thank you.
So, just for a little introduction for people who don't know Dr. Turner. So, Dr. Turner, she gained her Bachelor of Music and Bachelor of Education from Queen's University in Canada. She gained her Master of Music Education and Conducting from the University of Victoria in British Columbia. And finally, she gained her DMA in Conducting at the Eastman School of Music. She is currently director of bands, professor of music, co-artistic director of Rotown Music at the Hugh Hodgson School of Music, and conducts the Hugh Hodgson Wind Ensemble, leads the Master of Music and DMA programs in conducting, and oversees the entire band program, including the 400 plus members of the Red Coat Marching Band. And whenever I read this, I was like, wow, you do so much, and you still have time to, or rather, you make time to sit down with students like me to interview you. And
You
so
know,
I
I
thank
yeah, you read that and I just get tired.
you. Speaking about not fitting the mold, um, really want to talk about Omar Thomas's him as a composer and his piece "A Mother of a Revolution." Um, and so I'll get into it. So for people who don't know Omar Thomas, he's a composer, arranger, and educator. Currently, the assistant professor of composition of jazz studies at the University of Texas in Austin. He is well accomplished composer, and his music speaks for it. Truly, if you've listened to it, if you haven't, please do. His music speaks for Black individuals searching for a home in classical music, in the classical music industry, and his music speaks to the LGBTQ plus persons also searching for a place of belonging. Um, truly, what a prominent figure in our industry. And so I guess I want to get into it. So talk to us about your relationship with Omar Thomas and your connection with him and his music. Because I know there was many talks of you having conversations with him, even a residency on campus at UGA.
Hmm. Yeah, he was to come in April. So obviously, March hit, COVID hit, and that was the end of that. He will come. He will come again. I mean, it's going to happen. So he and I met for the first time at Ball State. I was there teaching at a conducting symposium, and then the Ball State Wind Ensemble performed Come Sunday, which was the piece we were going to perform last April.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were just fast friends. I mean, we are have similar feelings about education and the power of music, aesthetics, um, anti-racism, inclusion, you name it. We just had a ton of things to talk about, and so we just became fast friends, and now it's kind of the relationship where we only met this one time, but I know that the next time we're in person, we'll just start where we left off, and we'll just randomly text each other, about anything. Like, did you hear blah blah blah? Yeah, it's ridiculous. How are you doing? Like just fun stuff like that. It's kind of kindred spirits, and he's a wonderful teacher for me. Um, the way he thinks about the world, his music making, his own evolution as an artist, as a musician, as a composer. He's always has a beginning. This is kind of zen, but like a beginning heart and a beginner's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I resonate with that. Like, the more you learn about something, whether that's conducting or composition or saxophone or whatever, the more you realize there's a lot of holes here. You know, he talks about that a lot. He reads quantum physics in his spare time, like that's his brain, right? And he talks about one of the truths of the universe is the more you zoom into something that is seemingly solid, the closer you get, the more you realize it's empty. That's a truth of the universe, that it's an empty space, and that's just mind blowing. Right? But it's interesting to think about your learning that way, right? The more you think you know about a subject, the more you realize just how many empty spaces are there. And that's both, what's the word? It's one of the sadnesses and wonderfulnesses of life. You know, that you'll just never know everything about one thing. Never mind knowing everything about everything. You'll never know everything about one thing. And that's a beautiful, beautiful place to lean into. So he thinks like that, right? And so high level, right? Or soul level. And so he brings that into his music and music writing. His music, like Come Sunday, for instance. Why hadn't that piece been written before Omar? And we need to ask ourselves that question in the profession, right? However, he wrote it, and like it's freaking amazing, right? And everybody's playing it. Everybody wants to play it. Yeah, it blew up, and audiences leap to their feet and clap along before it's over. Like it just breaks so many boundaries of performance and audience engagement and harmony, you know, harmonies that have been around for a long time, just not necessarily in the so-called classical medium. And so he's just brought that into our world in a way that speaks to so many people. And in Come Sunday, I think is it the Come Sunday in the program notes, it's basically, you know, to my Black brothers and sisters in this ensemble, I see you. And you know, how many generations of African American students went through my ensembles, and I never played music by a Black composer.
I know one of my first, like the first time that I ever played music by a Black composer was at UGA. That was last year.
Well, I'm ashamed of that. Terribly. Um, Alas, what we do is we go, okay, well, that's shameful, and now we move on and rectify it. I was listening to Anthony Green, the gentleman from Castle of Our Skins. If you don't know about Castle of Our Skins, it's a wonderful organization that's trying to rectify a lot of wrongs in classical music. And I heard him speak the other day on a webinar, and he said, I really applaud the folks that are saying, we're going to program at least one BIPOC composer on every recital or concert moving forward. And he says, that's great. But do you really think that's going to rectify 500 years of the opposite? 500 years. Think about that. Of course it isn't. And so we have to do better. We have to do more than better. And you know, I'm not going to pat myself on the back because I'm ashamed of myself in my early career. It's my privilege, right? I don't have to think about this stuff. And you know, last year, 2 years ago, we did an all performance by all Black composers, not during Black History Month, and didn't say anything about it, other than we're not doing this during Black History Month. Just trying to normalize something that's should be normalized
Right.
versus some of the things that are normalized in our society today.
Hmm.
Anyway, he's opened a lot of minds and a lot of hearts, and he's given permission for a lot of things that were not granted before,
Hmm.
and that's pretty amazing.
It is. Absolutely. And so I guess that kind of takes me into, because I know we performed a Mother of a Revolution last year. I'm not sure if that was one of the first performances of it. Um, but can you talk to us about your programming of a Mother of a Revolution? Because I know you had planned on, I could be wrong about this, you had planned on programming it for every concert again and again. I wonder what was your thought process and your purpose behind it?
Well, how many times have you heard Beethoven 5?
Many. I can't even count.
Yeah, I mean, I could leave it there and let people make it, like it's partly, this whole genius concept is part of the problem,
Mhm.
right? These pedestals that we put these above average composers. I mean, into Philip Yule's, to use Philip Yule's language, Beethoven was above average composer. Wow, he just that excuse my French, the shitstorm that followed after he said that, right? All of these, you know, white people clutching their pearls, like, how dare you say that about Beethoven? It just revealed our fragility, right? It revealed oh, so many things that are wrong. So yeah, I there's so much about Mother of a Revolution that I think should be heard again and again and again and again. And I'm not trying to put Omar on some kind of genius pedestal. What I wanted to do with that was, first of all, this is a badass piece, right? It's just fun.
Yes.
It's just a fun piece.
Hmm.
It's fun to play, it's fun to listen to. It strikes that interesting balance of, oh, this has got a cool beat, I can dance to it.
Hmm.
But also, wow, there's a lot of every time I hear this piece, I hear different things. That's interesting. And the message, of course, is extremely important. When we played that piece, um, and we got feedback from the inmates.
Hmm.
And after the one performance, I think it was at Buford, the medium security. Yeah, it was the medium security prison because we sort of we chatted with the audience and the students interacted with the inmates there, and a man came up to me and said, "Thank you for playing that revolution piece. It's not easy being gay in here." Um, and we talked a lot, and I ended up giving him a hug.
Hmm.
And that's the power of music, right? And similarly, we got some feedback after the fact, and there were other inmates there that said, "I liked everything except that gay piece,
Hmm.
that faggot piece." Um, okay. Uh, well, education. It's about learning. It's about realizing that we have a long, 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 long way to go.
Yes.
Um, so all of the above. The disco vibe in that piece that speaks to that era that's so important to the queer community, right? It's
Hmm.
particularly in the 70s. Um, and her, Marsha, pay it no mind Johnson's
Hmm.
bravery to be a black trans woman in
Hmm.
in in the 60s, unapologetically
Unapologetic.
and proudly. I mean, she's she was amazing, right? She paved the way for RuPaul, and the now popularity of drag,
Mm-hmm.
and the relative again, we have a long way to go, acceptance of that beautiful culture and being. So
Yes.
she was vilified.
Mm-hmm.
She was probably murdered, right?
Yes.
Her death was ruled a suicide. It
Mm-hmm.
was basically the cops saying it's just a black gay person, and they ruled it a suicide. And then years
Mm-hmm.
later, they've worked to open the case.
Right.
It's now been called undetermined. Um, and now there's parks that are going to be named after her. There's monuments. Um, you know, 40 years later, 45 years later. That's bravery. Existing unapologetically and pumping your fist at what is a civil and social wrong in the face of death. Um, yes, we should play that piece at every concert. Unapologetic.
And I would like to say this one quote from Omar Thomas. Let's see. So Omar Thomas says, "We pump our fists to honor the life, heroism, activism, and bravery of Marsha P. Johnson, to honor the legacy of the Stonewall Revolution, to honor the memory of the trans lives violently ended due to fear and hatred, and in honor of trans women worldwide who continue to exist unapologetically and who demand to be seen." Um,
You know, yeah, it's powerful, right? And
mhm.
and demand to be seen, right? Um, it could be asking for revenge,
Mhm.
right? That's not what's happening.
Mhm.
Just equality. That's it. What's the problem?
Right.
Anyway, um, we have a long way to go, but you know, evolution is it's slow. I mean, we don't necessarily see it in our lives,
Mhm.
right? We know it's happening because we've studied a little geography and geology, and we know, and sociology, we know that evolution exists, but we don't necessarily see it on a certainly on a daily basis, and not necessarily in a lifetime.
Right.
But it is happening. It is happening. Um, but can we, as musicians, as artists, as leaders, can we make it happen a little faster? I think we can.
I think we can. Okay.
Yeah, Omar talks about we we hang on strongly to the anchors on our necks, even though we're drowning.
Mhm.
It's just human nature, um, and it's especially human nature for people in power,
Right.
um, and that's the part that needs to change.
Yes. Change is needed, and um, lots of Omar Thomas's pieces speak to that. And as we see with his pieces, and the things happening at universities and other schools of music, change is coming. Um, whether it's slow, medium, or fast, it's coming. And we're excited to see that change, or at least I'm very excited to see that change. And for those that haven't seen or heard A Mother of a Revolution by Omar Thomas, please check it out on our AARI website. Um, and along with it, there's a link to his bio link to what the piece is about.